Hello everyone, what's up? Prince 1215 here with another review of a Star Wars Tales of miniseries. A couple years ago we got Tales of the Jedi, then we had Tales of the Empire, now we have Tales of the Underworld. So let's take a look at these 6 short episodes that were released on May the 4th. I don't know. So that was a Sunday. That seems like a really random day for them to drop a Star Wars thing. I wonder why they did that. Haha, just joking. I know why they did it, because it was Star Wars Day. So they released a Star Wars thing on Star Wars Day. You gotta love it. I think this is kind of like starting to be like a mini tradition. We get a Tales of series on or around May the 4th. So I'm not gonna argue about that. That's nice. I like it. So yeah, the two central characters this time around, we've had Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku. We had Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth, and whose name I forgot there briefly. And now we're focusing on Asajj, Ventress, and Cad Bane. So, spoilers, if you haven't seen Bad Batch. But Asajj Ventress is alive. She's not dead, like we thought she was. She did, in fact, die, but then she's come back to life. So I'm just going to cover these episodes first, because I'm already getting rolling. So her showing up in Bad Batch, I thought was really cool, because I was like, okay, so even though that was a really fantastic story, we're going to ignore Dark Disciple and just mush on forward so we can do other things with these characters that never really got their original endings. That's good. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But then that's what I was assuming when they revealed that she was going to be in season 3 of Bad Batch. But then they came out and said very quickly, no, we are keeping Dark Disciple canon because it's such a good story, and we're going to explain how she came back eventually. I was like, oh, okay, I'm a little less enthused about this now. Still cool that she is here. I enjoy the character. But she is now one of a growing handful of characters that have cheated death. In ways that doesn't always work out for Star Wars. Because obviously, I think we have 2 prime great big examples of characters being brought back for the dead. One of them working spectacularly well, and the other working not so well. Obviously, we're talking about the 2 Darths, Darth Maul and Darth Sidious. Darth Maul coming back was amazing. That was awesome. They had to pull a switcheroo retcon thing where he was definitely supposed to be dead after he got cut in half on Naboo in Phantom Menace. But it's like, you know what? It's Star Wars. He can survive that. It's fine. He doesn't need like his, a lot of his lower intestine and stuff like that. He'll just, survive off the Force and his hatred. That works. And we all bought it because the story that they told was so flippin' good with Darth Maul. And now he's getting his own show, Shadow Lord, which I am very excited for. So yeah, everything that they've done with Darth Maul has been like fantastic. So justified, bring the character back. Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, however, in Rise of Skywalker, bringing him back from the dead. Do we really need to rehash this? It's like, is there anyone that really likes that plot point? I mean, I thought from a presentation standpoint, like the decaying body of Sidious on the big crane armed thing, and it's like his spirit talking basically through a decaying corpse. I thought that visual and that idea was cool. And then we got the rest of Rise of Skywalker. So it's like, so that one didn't really turn out so well. And then you've got a couple other characters in the middle, like Boba Fett, where it's like, yeah, obviously he was meant to die when they threw him into the Sarlacc, but it's like, he's Boba Fett, he survives, that's fine. We can buy that, and then it's like, jury's out on, it's like, it's really up to the person you're talking to on whether or not they thought bringing him back was a good idea. And so now we're doing a similar thing with Ventress. So yeah, as I'm kind of alluding to, I'm of 2 minds of them having brought back Ventress. One, it's cool that we have the character back. On the other, Dark Disciple was a perfect ending for that character. And it is kind of weird that it's now undone with caveats. So, for those of you that have not read Dark Disciple, which I wholly recommend, that's an amazing book. So for those of you that have not read the book and don't really know what the book is, Dark Disciple is a novel, I believe, by Claudia Gray, who's done a couple other Star Wars novels that are good. And it focuses on Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress trying to assassinate Count Dooku during the Clone Wars. And this story was based on completed scripts for like 6+ episodes of the Clone Wars that were going to span like across a period of like 2 seasons, where we would, where it, like, this story actually takes place over such a long period of time that we would drop it for a bit and then come back to it, like we did with other arcs in the Clone Wars, like with Maul or Mandalore or all these other things going on in like the criminal sector and everything. So we would say, all right, that's our bit of the story for this season. Now we'll pick up again with Mandalore in season 4 and see what Death Watch is doing. It's like that kind of idea. So that was going to be kind of the next multi-year arc that they were working on, was Quinlan Vos and Ventress having these little adventures during the Clone Wars and everything. So at the end of the book, like I said, I'm spoiling the whole thing. At the end of the book, after long trials and tribulations and ups and downs, and Quinlan Vos turning to the dark side briefly and becoming Dooku's new assassin, and Ventress, striking out on her own as a mercenary, and then teaming up with Quinlan, and those two falling in love and everything. They're in this fight with Count Dooku, and Dooku is about to kill Quinlan Vos, but Ventress steps in the way and takes the blast of Force lightning meant for him and absorbs it, and it kills her. And of course, Dooku escapes, and it's because, we have to have episode 3. So at the end of the book, Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan go to Dathomir and bury her in the Night Sister burial grounds, which we see at the beginning of this short. And then there is this illusion at the end of the book where it's talking about like this green mist appearing and everything, and it kind of plays coy on what that really means. Many took it to mean that something was happening and Ventress was actually alive after all. I, meanwhile, took it as the spirits of the Night Sisters were welcoming their sister into the afterlife, or something kind of poetic like that. So the fact that, like, it's Dathomir, there's weird witchy things going on all the time. So the fact that there was just green mist being described in the book at the very end, I didn't really think that was, that means Ventress is alive. So for me, and I think many others that read the book, that was it. That was the end of Ventress's story. As heartbreaking as it is, it was a perfect end for what such a conflicted character who started off as this straight up villain. And she is the beginning of, even in the micro series Clone Wars 2002 or 2003, excuse me. The micro series, even in there, she's just a straight up villain meant to kind of just be cannon fodder to face off against our heroes, so that way they're not, facing off against Dooku and Grievous all the time. You need someone else there. So Ventress, that's what Ventress did in the early seasons of the Clone Wars, where she popped up, she fought Ahsoka, she fought Luminara, she fought Anakin and Obi-Wan a time or two, and she would kind of lose a little bit and run away with her tail tucked between her legs. And then, that eventually she'd show up a couple episodes later and we would repeat the process. But then midway through season 3, that cycle is broken and Dooku is forced to get rid of her because Palpatine realizes that it's like, you can't pull the wool over my eyes, Dooku. This is not an assassin. This is your apprentice. You're trying to usurp me. I'm not going to have that. So either get rid of her or I'm getting rid of both of you. So, and then from there, she has this really amazing character arc that's incomplete because the Clone Wars got canceled. And this Dark Disciple story was supposed to be, these episodes that got turned into the book was supposed to be the conclusion of that story. And it's just really, it's like, when you see the whole picture, it's a really great ending to that character. And we don't really need more from her because there's this really nice beginning, middle, end to it. So, but here we are with Bad Batch season 3 before this, and now Tales of the Underworld, where we see Ventress alive, and they and they and they I find it, I'm conflicted of how they pulled this off, because they recreate the scene from the ending of Dark Disciple with Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos burying Ventress in the Night Sister burial grounds and them leaving, and then there's the green smoke and everything as was described in the book. And so, and you hear Mother Talzin's voice, which was cool to hear her back. I thought Mother Talzin was always this interesting character. Cool villain. And she says that, yeah, you're dead. That kind of sucks for you. We're sorry about that. But because we're Night Sisters and magic and weird force powers that aren't easily explained and everything, Quinlan Vos had such a... This almost feels like a Doctor Who plot point to me, where it's like, this is something that could be hand-waved really easily in a show like Doctor Who, but Star Wars, I feel like we have some kind of stricter rules going on, but at the same time we don't, so it's a little odd. So it's like Quinlan Vos sheds a single tear of pure love, and it falls onto Ventress as she's placed in the waters. So I guess the insinuation here is that this is like a fairy tale where true love conquers all, and true love brought Ventress back to life. But it's not without its drawbacks, where Mother Talzin tells Ventress, okay, so you can return to life and never see Quinlan Vos again for some reason we're not going to describe. So you're going to be separated from your love forever going forward. Or you can join us in the afterlife and, kind of have this peace in death. And Ventress chooses to live. So like I said, I'm kind of two minds of this, because on one hand, that's an interesting way to do it. We're not straight up erasing, and of course we're not erasing because it's a canon story. They're adhering to canon. But we're not completely undoing the ending by having her be alive and running to Vos and going, "Hey, I'm alive after all. Let's go off and live in peace, even though the Empire's about to rise and everything." Blah blah blah. We don't know that. It's like she can't do that. She has to strike out on her own and everything, kind of live this life of solitude, which kind of begs the question. It's like, well, why did she choose to live anyway? And I'm kind of like, why did they waste this story on a Tales of series? Now, I haven't really gotten to the episodes themselves too much yet, because I'm setting all this stuff up. I think my thoughts on the Cad Bane story is going to go much faster. So this is primarily going to be about Ventress. But these Ventress episodes, I think, are good. I enjoy them. I think there's some interesting story here. Gorgeous animation, as always. But I'm kind of like, why did you do this story in a Tales of series? Why didn't you give Ventress her own show? Now, if you have to choose between Ventress and Maul being the next character to get a mainline show, I understand it being Maul. He's the more popular character. But there's enough juicy story here. I really kind of and it's like, maybe this was the only way they could tell the story, and they really wanted to tell this story right now. And so this was the best they could do, so this is what they gave us. And if that's the case, then okay, I'll take it. And of course, that sets up Ventress to appear in other projects down the line. But at the same time, I'm still like, if you'd been patient and held off, maybe you could have told the rest of this story elsewhere where you had more runtime. And that could have been more interesting, possibly. Because you could have actually really delved in to, because I feel like these Ventress episodes kind of raise more questions than answers. Like, why can't she see Quinlan again? What happens if she sees Quinlan again? Like, does she turn to dust if she sees Quinlan Vos again? And like, if they touch, then does she like just croak and die? It's like, we told you, you can't see the love of your life again. It's like, his love brought you back, but it won't keep you alive if you try to go smooches. I don't know. It's like, why is all that work? Who knows? So we've got those questions, like why did Ventress choose to be alive anyway when she was given the kind of with the rules explained to her, like, okay, you can be alive, but you can never see Quinlan again, which to me is almost kind of a why would you bother being alive at that point if you can't see your love? So the fact that she chose to be alive anyway and kind of live this miserable experience, which it is Ventress, she does kind of seem like the type that would do that. um she's almost kind of like a grumpy cat character where where it's like you could just, if you were to personify Asajj Ventress's mood in one image, it'd just be grumpy cat, kind of, where she's always just kind of grouchy, but kind of in a, especially in this version we're getting here, kind of a fun way. She's kind of grouchy in a fun way. um so I feel like if they had more runtime, they could have really delved into that question that I have. It's like, why did she choose to live instead of remaining dead? I'm very curious about that. And if they had more time, and like, let's say that, give her a TV show, and it's not even like it's just one season. We're just going to do one season of a Ventress show. It's going to be 13 20-minute episodes. That's all we've got planned, but this is going to be a story with a beginning, middle, end. We're going to tell it. If you do that, then that could be like the central question throughout the entire thing. Why did I do this to myself? I was happy being dead. Maybe I should just go kill. It's like, that'd be dark for Star Wars, but hey, Andor's talking about rape, so it's like maybe a character contemplating suicide isn't the darkest thing in the world to put in a Star Wars show. It's like, deal with some of these really interesting questions, and then she meets this kid, and her going, it's like, I don't really know why I chose to be alive again, but maybe it was the Force guiding me, that I needed to be here to do something, and it was to look after you, because the Force has brought us together for a reason. And I'm not a Jedi, I'm not totally spiritual on all the mumbo jumbo stuff, but it is a power I recognize and don't completely understand, so I'm just going to go with this. I feel like that could have been kind of a really awesome cathartic finale for that character, which, and like after that, it's like, they're out there, they could pop up in other things, but for all intents and purposes, then her story really would be done. It's like, you thought it was done when she died, but no, this is really where her redemption comes full circle, and she really is thinking about more than herself for once, and she is going to look after this kid, which is a ongoing trope in Star Wars now. Her taking on an apprentice and trying to teach him right from wrong, even though she's never excelled at that either. I don't know. I feel like the concept here of what they could have done with this character with just these little snippets that they've given us, I feel like is strong enough. This could hold its own show. So I'm kind of like, why did you just do 3 shorts and move on? Now, and who knows? Maybe they're going to return to, like, maybe we will get 3 more Ventress episodes in another year or something like that. Maybe they'll do like Tales of the Grey Jedi or something, which I know that's a loaded term in the fandom, but you know what I mean. It's like, Tales of the Force or something like that. And here's some characters that wield the Force, but they're not necessarily Jedi or Sith. And we touch back on Ventress again, and this kid, and like time has gone on. It's like maybe we're past Return of the Jedi at this point, and they've been with one another for a while, and he's grown up, and he's an adult, and he's kind of wanting to stretch his wings. Like, it's like, there was this whole rebellion. You didn't let me go on that and help out, and because we got to keep the canon. It's like, it'd be weird if we had all these Jedi running around, and, something, and then maybe her finally reuniting with Quinlan Vos, or I don't know. Who knows? There's a lot of things they could do with this character, but I'm just kind of like, but why did you do it here in this very short format and give me a taste, and now I want even more? Which I suppose is something they want, is for me to want more. But I don't know. There's something about the way they've done this. As good as these episodes are, because I don't really have an issue with these episodes as they're presented. As good as they are, the whole thing just kind of feels incomplete, where it's like, there's much more they could do with this, and I want that much more, but it kind of is what it is. So, so yeah, first episode is Ventress and this kid escaping from the Empire and an Inquisitor, which is another one and done where he shows up and is immediately dispatched. Where I'm starting to sense a pattern here with Inquisitors. Um, I loved seeing the Stormtrooper armor really a lot more now because we saw it very briefly, very briefly at the end of Clone Wars Season 7. And of course, in Bad Batch, we got TK Troopers, which is this in between of Clone Trooper and Stormtrooper armor, heavily based on Ralph McQuarrie concept art. But this is actual full on Imperial Stormtrooper armor, as we know it from the original trilogy and stuff. And yeah, it looks really good in motion and stuff. It was cool to hear Steve Bloom again reprising his role as like Stormtrooper number 3 or whatever. It's like because he voices a lot of Stormtroopers. So yeah, it was really cool to see them in motion, in action a little bit more. Especially in the second episode. I think the second episode was my favorite of the 3 for Ventress. Just because the heist was cool. Seeing the return of Latz and Highsinger, the droid, was really cool. Those are two cool characters from Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure they both have new character models as well that are much more detailed than before, so that's nice. But like seeing all the stuff they can do, was like she's got that weird plant whip thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but like she whips people with it and like grabs them and stuff. Like that was always something I thought was cool and really interesting when we first saw her in Clone Wars. And so yeah, I appreciate her being back here. But yeah, that second episode, like they're building the shield generators to go on the Imperial Star Destroyers. Like the Imperial fleet is now in full production. They are still phasing out Venators. They're really ramping up production on these Star Destroyers, and they need to build these giant shield generators that go on the bridges. So I really liked the whole chase thing. Ventress cutting the cables and the thing rolling, and like there's the opening she cut, and so it's like she times it just right, and the thing rolls over her, and then she goes in there and climbs to the top, and suddenly she's running on the top of the thing, and then like Stormtroopers running and trying to get out of the way and to not get crushed and everything, and all that was just really cool. I really liked a lot of that. Just a cool action sequence, like High Singer kind of doing a IG-11 type thing where he's spinning his body around, blasting fools left and right and everything. All that was really cool. I really liked that episode. It was mostly action heavy. And it had a little kind of sweet moment at the end where it's like the kid finally trusts Ventress, and it's like, yeah, you're not gonna stab me in the back. Like we are in this together. And then the third episode I think was the weakest. I don't want to say it's bad, but it's certainly the weakest of the bunch. The lesson of maybe we don't always have to fight. I feel like maybe Ventress has kind of learned by now. I kind of thought maybe not. I thought she was a little wiser than that. And so like there being the parallel between her and the old Separatist commander, and her going, it's like, hey, maybe we should, maybe we don't always have to fight and everything. May a little rough, but I really liked the new little alien species, like the moment where they all came across and they all appeared over the ridge on the hilltops or whatever, and you could see just how many of them there were, and they really did animate a bunch of those. Like those critters were everywhere. I really liked that. The chase scene, as brief as it was fun. And so yeah, not bad. Just probably the weakest of the 6 episodes, really. So just not a whole lot there. And then yeah, the very end was very corny, very predictable. But Star Wars is like that at times, so it's fine. And then this is kind of what I mean by I wish that there was more to this, because that ending where it's like imagine where we had gone on this 13 episode journey with these characters, 22-minute episodes each. So we had like it's like 13 of these. Like these are a little too short to be full episodes, but you know what I mean. We'd had 13 of these, and then they finally find the ship, and you see it coming where Ventress is like, all right, get going, kid. We don't have to be a team anymore or whatever. You can go on the path. And then, they had this kind of tearful goodbye, and then he runs off, and Ventress has this moment where it's like I got to give props to Nika Futterman, or however you say her name. I think that's right. Even after all this time, she really nails Ventress, and as much as I said this was kind of, I think, the weakest episode of the bunch, the moment where she does say, as the kid's running to the shuttle to join the other people on the path, the moment where she says, "May the Force be with you," and her voice breaks out of emotion because she's sad to see this kid go, for as much trouble as he caused her and everything. The moment where her voice breaks, saying "May the Force be with you," kind of got me choked up. I was like, just kind of feeling the tears around the edge of my eyes. Like, okay, you're kind of getting me here, because that's a big deal for that character to say that and not mean it sarcastically or jokingly or anything. Like, she legitimately meant that. She was legitimately wishing the kid luck by using that Jedi phrase, a phrase she probably in the past loathed hearing because she was an enemy of the Jedi, and she wanted to take her vengeance out on the Jedi and stuff. So for her to say that with that sincerity, and for her voice to break in that moment, it's like, that's okay. Forget about the fact that this is probably overall the weakest episode of the bunch. That may be my favorite moment out of all 6 of these episodes. It's like, that was almost I don't know if I don't know if you can, like, since it's just a short, like, mini series, or it's like how you would even nominate people for Emmys, but it's like, for that line alone, it's like, okay, can we get Miss Futterman an Emmy for this, please? I think she's if she doesn't have one already, she's well deserved one in the past, probably, and especially after that line delivery. I was like, oh my gosh, that was great. So imagine we have 13 of these episodes, and then we have that moment, and you're kind of starting to question, hey, maybe they are going their separate ways. Maybe this is the end of the story, and this is Ventress really truly turning over a new leaf. And then the kid, as predictable as it is, runs off the shuttle. He rejoins Ventress, going, you know what? No, we are going to stick together because it's worked out so far, and we're attached to one another and everything. And then she could kind of give him this, because in the actual episode we got, it all wraps up very quickly. But imagine, a little bit more of a drawn out. She's like, what are you doing? You were going to be safe. You're going to be on that ship. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't leave you. It's like, we make such a good team, and it's like, we're attached now, we're partners in crime and all that. It's like, and then, like, they actually kind of have this nice, like, legitimately emotional moment, and then and it's like they're dropping these breadcrumbs and seeds of him going, it's like, wait, you were, and kind of learning, it's like, wait, you were dead at one point, or were people just thought you were dead? And then her kind of fessing up and saying some things here and there, and, like, eventually telling him the story. And then, like, after these 13 episodes, then we have this nice emotional moment, and then she can finally say, at the time, I don't know why I made that choice to return to the land of the living when it was given to me, but now I know it's because the Force knew that you needed me, and as much as you needed me, I also needed you, and so now we are in this together, and we are going to face whatever the future holds together. If that were the way that this ended, I think I would be an inconsolable wreck on the floor going, oh, so good. I think that could have been, like, really beautiful. But unfortunately, it's just these, like, 3 short little segments of what could be, which irritates me. But what we still got was good, so I can't really be that irritated at it. It's just kind of what could have been. Like, this is almost like a perfect pilot or pitch for, it's like, hey, let's do a Ventress show and have it be this. I don't know if that was their intention with this, but yeah. So like I said, that last Ventress one overall was probably the weakest, but the potential of that ending moment really, really strong. So I'm going to be curious if we see Ventress again in any substantial form going forward. Um, so yeah, like I said, it is kind of weird that this is yet another character that kind of had an ending, and yet we've brought them back to continue their story. But I think their 2012 for Lucasfilm was such a butterfly moment, a butterfly effect moment, where had that sale to Disney not happened, like Star Wars as we know it right now is completely different. Completely different. Like Lucas says, he has treatment. He had treatments that he gave to Disney for what episodes 7, 8, 9 would be like. But part of the only reason I'm pretty sure that he made those treatments in the first place was because he knew he was selling to Disney and they would want to make those movies. Not that he necessarily wanted to make them, but he knew that they were going to make those movies, so he might as well give them something to start with, and and so he could at least have some early hand in it. And then they threw those treatments in the trash. But whatever. No, since we, I'm not too upset about that. Not, it's like I wish they would have consulted with him more. But like, if what we know about the treatments is true, it's kind of like, yeah, no. It's like I don't think that was the direction we needed to go, George. But it's like we would, they still should have consulted him more on the stuff they did do. So anyway, if Lucas had not sold to Disney when he did, or at all, I think a lot in like, and the reason I'm going with this train of thought is the idea that Clone Wars wraps up the way that was originally intended when they set out to make the show in the first place. Because I imagine that a lot of what we got from say the Siege of Mandalore specifically is probably very close to what Dave and George originally had outlined. Now, obviously, there were some changes that they had to include and stuff because of the other shows had come and gone in that time. Like Rebels was not a thing when they were making Clone Wars, and I think in Maul being in Rebels and stuff. So it's like, would Maul have survived the end of Clone Wars had Rebels not been a show? Because Rebels would not be a TV show that would exist without the sale to Disney and all that stuff. So I don't know if several of these characters get these continued resurrections and stuff in Star Wars media if the Clone Wars actually wrapped up the way it was originally supposed to. So it's one of those kind of big what if things. So and so from a production standpoint for the team, I understand them wanting to do more with these characters and them having the opportunity to do some things with these characters. And so kind of saying it's like, okay, well, Ventress did have a good ending, but what if we could continue using her? Maybe we can find a workaround and continue her story because there's other things we could do. And using Maul as that prime example of Maul was dead. No one had thought about him for years other than him just being the poster boy for Phantom Menace. So it's like, if we can do this right, we could have another Maul situation in our hands where bringing this character back was absolutely the right choice. So who knows? But for what we got here, I thought was good for the Ventress episodes, and I'm excited to see if they do more with her in the future and see how those stories pan out. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Ventress episodes. Like I said, I think the Cad Bane episode, my discussion is going to go real quick on this, because I don't really have a lot to say about the Bane episodes. I think they are good. I think overall the Bane episodes are a stronger story, beginning, middle, and end than the Ventress ones. But there's obviously way more character depth and more room to grow and explore those characters with the Ventress episodes compared to the Bane episodes. But if you're just wanting to watch a quick, beginning, middle, and end, the Bane ones are the better episodes, I think. And I really like seeing the origin of Cad Bane. Him being this little street rat urchin. And the moment, it's funny, I picked up on it about a minute before the character was really even properly introduced. But young Bane and Nero were running around on the street, bumping into people and pulling faces and stuff, trying to steal food. And then you see Laszlo leaning up against the side of the building, and he's got his hat down and he's playing with his toothpick. And I saw that, and I'm like, oh, we're pulling a Last Crusade. Okay, where Indiana Jones, where Henry Williams Jr. Models himself after this guy he met when he was a teenager, and so Bane's going to do the same thing, where he's going to model himself out of this off of this outlaw gunslinger that he met when he was a child, and that's exactly what happens. And I was not disappointed by that. It's like, okay, this is cool, and it wasn't just because that could have gone wrong. That could have been. It could have made Cad Bane lame, where it's like, oh well, he's just trying to. It was kind of like the rumor about them maybe bringing back Boba Fett at one point in time, post Disney buyout, where it's like, oh, they're going to make a Boba Fett movie, but it's not going to have Temuera Morrison in it. It's going to be some guy that just steals the armor and dresses up like Boba Fett and calls himself Boba Fett, and he is the new Boba Fett and everything, so we can get rid of all this clone nonsense. And then they ended up not doing that, or that rumor was false and someone just made up or whatever. So this decision to do this with Cad Bane could have been a bad one because they could have just made Cad Bane out to be like this really violent fanboy who just wants to be like his idol or whatever. They could have pulled a Syndrome or whatever. But I really like how all of Bane's mannerisms, he doesn't actually really copy from Laszlo. He really does come into them on his own. And then the hat really, he really steps into the hat and he makes it his own thing. And the hat and everything kind of being this mark of vengeance for him more than him just trying to copy Laszlo, which I really liked. Like the reason he puts on the hat is it becomes this determined thing where it's like, okay, he's going to go seek revenge. And it's not him just trying to emulate his idol or whatever. And he knows that, because it's partly a tactical thing where it's like, I think he kind of knows that emulating the image is going to be what draws out the Marshal and everything. So yeah. In this, I love the second episode. It's like he blows up the old corner shop and everything. And, it's like shoots the police droids, and then the Marshal shows up, and then silhouetted against the fire, just everyone else is freaking out like, oh no, there's a fire. Oh, what's going on? And all that stuff. Meanwhile, as cool as a cucumber, as always, is Cad Bane just leaning against the post. And he just, his hat's down. He's playing with the toothpick. He's totally come into all this imagery like on his own. It's like he's not really. It's like it doesn't feel like he's copying Laszlo. It really feels like it is him now. And he's like, "Are you the lawman around here?" It's like all so Western. And then like they draw, and then it's like, and he shoots the Marshal dead. And it's like, oh, just really, really cool. And then the introduction of Aaron I thought was really interesting, and I kind of picked up on what they were doing very early on. And I think they telegraphed it a little bit, because at one point when Bane is in the cockpit of their ship, like before he goes out to confront the Marshal, and she tells him, it's like, hey, we don't have to do this, we can like fly away or whatever. She walks in, she is holding her stomach. And so I was trying to figure out like what their relationship was earlier, and then she did that. I'm like, oh, okay, no, she's having Bane's kid. All right, I gotcha. I'm on board. I understand what's going on here. And then like she doesn't say it in the episode, because she says something like, well, everything's different now, or something like that. After like when she's shot in the shoulder and everything, and Bane's carted off to prison. And she had said I had no other choice for what I had to do, and blah, blah, blah. It was very kind of, to me, telegraphed what was going on. So then in the next episode, when Isaac shows up, he's like, Papa, and he's like, let's see here. Your mother had green Duro skin, and your papa has green Duro skin, yet your skin is blue. Gee, I wonder who your biological father is. It's like, it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. So it's like, so yeah, Nero was raising the son of his ex-best friend who turned into an outlaw, and he's now the lawman. And it's like they have this fated shootout in front of the police station and everything. And there's this really tragic moment where he's gunned down in the street, and Bane figures it out. Like, oh shoot, wait, that's my kid. And I love the little moment where Isaac's crying over Nero's body, and Bane does kind of begin to reach out. He begins to reach out to maybe be a good person, but he hesitates. And that hesitation is enough for the counselor lady to run up and tell him to just go home and, like, leave. It's like, you've done your damage. We won't chase you down. Just go away and leave Isaac alone. And he just turns around and walks away. And from that moment forward, he is fated to be the cold, calculating gunslinger, bounty hunter, Cad Bane. That's great. That is awesome. I love this. And I especially now really, really want them to somehow incorporate or finish those episodes or do whatever they have to do to get the story of young Boba Fett and Cad Bane out there. Because we know it's canon. Because, like, some of these unfinished Clone Wars things, like, well, is this canon, is it not? Because, like, I'm pretty sure the whole Yuzon Vong, like, that was going to be an episode of Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure that's not canon because it didn't make it really that far in production. But the Cad Bane and Boba Fett thing, that's totally canon because they reference it multiple times in the book of Boba Fett. They have that, like, they keep talking about, it's like, this has been a long time coming. We've got all this history and stuff. Like, do you? I haven't seen this story. I know it exists, but sure, I would love to see it, but we haven't. Could you maybe explain that a little bit? So now I definitely really want them to finish that arc. And maybe if it's like, so I like that they called this Tales of the Underworld, because when we saw it and the characters involved, we kind of assumed, oh, well, this is a Tales of the Bounty Hunters thing. They're just calling it Tales of the Underworld. But it's not really. Because Bane's not a bounty hunter in these episodes. This is his rise to become a bounty hunter, but he's just an outlaw here. So he's not a bounty hunter yet. And then same with Ventress, like, she's not doing any active bounty hunting, in these episodes, running around with the kid trying to keep him safe and everything. They pull a job, they pull a heist, but that's not a bounty hunt. That's different. So she's more of an outlaw there too. So I like that they called this Tales of the Underworld, because next year they could totally do Tales of the Bounty Hunters, and they could do 3 more Cad Bane episodes, and it's the young Boba Fett stuff. And I'm really crossing my fingers hoping they do that. Because now, especially with all this added context, like, oh yeah, he's got this kid out there that he presumably just abandons for the rest of his life, because that's how Cad Bane rolls, and I totally buy that. Going from that, knowing now that Bane has this kid out there, and then him mentoring young Boba Fett could be a great, it's like seeing them kind of, it would also be a great, wait for it. It's like, say it with me. It would be a great subversion of expectations on the older mentor-mentee story that we've been getting a lot of in Star Wars, really since the beginning, but especially lately, because, you've got the Mandalorian and Grogu and everything. And then Ventress and her kid, and then Kanan and Ezra, where it's like these 2 characters that are in these bad situations kind of forming this found family bond through their adventures and everything. We've been getting a lot of that over the last decade with Star Wars. And so it would be a really great subversion of expectations of that story trope that Star Wars has been doing a lot right now, where you kind of see this bond beginning to form with Cad Bane and Boba, and Bane kind of maybe confiding in Boba at one point. It's like, I've got a kid out there that I've never gone back to see, and I don't know what he's doing or how his life's turned out, but it's best if I just stay away. But I've always wondered maybe I could be a dad. And maybe Boba, seeing that softer side to Boba that we get a lot of in Book of Boba Fett, which I think is really interesting for Boba's character. Despite its flaws, I still liked the Book of Boba Fett a lot, and I want another season. And seeing that softer side of Boba, and then whatever Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, whatever vulnerability, that's the word. Whatever vulnerability Boba kind of starts to show towards Bane, and then Bane stomps down on it hard. And he's like, "Ha, fooled you. I didn't really mean that. The story's true, but my sentiments on the issue are not true. I was just doing that to try to trick you and continue to teach you. And now we're going to have this shootout where where my hat goes flying off and I get this wound on my head that I have in the book of Boba Fett and everything." So I think that could be a really cool idea for a story. So yeah, these 3 episodes of Cad Bane, really liked them. It's like with Ventress, I'm very excited to see if they do more stuff with Cad Bane. I love that character. It's like I could totally see him popping up in the Maul show, because Maul's of course going to surround himself with all sorts of scum and villainy. So to have Maul do something with Cad Bane, and they've worked together before because Cad Bane was in one of the Maul comics. From a couple years back. So it's like I could totally see him popping up in the Maul show. But yeah, no, I think the Bane episodes were great. It's a great little insight into into that character's past. Really informs a lot about the character and showing how he became who he became. And yeah, I love Cad Bane. It's like he's just an awesome character, and he has been since he first showed up on the scene in May of 2009. So yeah, I really like Tales of the Underworld. I think maybe if I were to rank these, I would say that Tales of the Jedi is probably the best so far, with Tales of the Underworld in second place, and then Tales of the Empire in third. Tales of the Empire is not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel like and as much as getting some insight into her character was cool, I feel like focusing on Morgan Elsbeth was maybe focusing on her is maybe the weakest story there, because she's not, it's like there's other characters that maybe could have gotten the spotlight, and like seeing what they did for Ventress, as much as I want an expansion of that, and seeing what they did for Cad Bane, it's like I think that worked a little bit better than say Morgan Elsbeth. But so yeah, no, I like these Tales of series, and I hope we get more of them going forward in the future. I'm certainly a fan. So yeah, that has been my thoughts on Tales of the Underworld, and yeah, that'll be about it. So thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys next year for Tales of the, who knows what we're going to do next year. I guess we'll find out if they do another one of these, which I hope they do. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.